Streaming from Oklahoma's own digital studio, this is Jeremie Poplin with Thunder Breakdown.
That's right, it's been a little while, but it is time for another Thunder Breakdown here live from the digital desk. And we've got some new Oklahoma City Thunder news for you. Welcome in to everyone watching as the 2025-26 NBA schedule was released in its entirety late yesterday afternoon. And that means we finally get to start making plans for what our next Thunder season looks like, and what nights that will be inside of the arena and what nights that will be spinning in front of the television, with plenty of more opportunities now for the nationally televised audience to see the Oklahoma City Thunder. So without further ado, let's welcome in News 9's Steve McGehee, the Thunder reporter, as we get set to break down this new schedule release. And Steve, it's a pretty impressive schedule for the Oklahoma City Thunder. We'll dive into some of the numbers here in a moment, but what's the first thing that stands out to you when you look at this new Thunder schedule that was released yesterday?
For traveling purposes, I look at that, okay, where are we starting? We knew they were going to start at home with Houston, but how long will we be at home? And we're not home for very long. But I always look at where we're starting, what's it look like over Thanksgiving, and that's at home. That's a plus with the family. What's it look like over the Christmas days? They're at home. That's a plus as well. They're also, again, playing on New Year's Eve. I think since the team moved here, they've always played on New Year's Eve. They play the Blazers on New Year's Eve, and then they hit the road, I think, to Phoenix. But now also where they finish. They almost finished all the games on the West Coast, but they do have one home game against the Phoenix Suns on a Sunday night to wrap up the season. So those are some of the things I look at. But the thing that kind of jumped out to me was 3 out of the first 4 games will be on the road. And their first, I think, let's see here. All their first 3 games will be at 6:30, and something we'll talk about later. But we're so used to those 7 o'clock start times. 7 o'clock starts for the Thunder this year will be a rarity.
The first thing that I start looking for when I scan through the schedule is I start looking for the cluster of home games and cluster of road games. With those difficult stretches. And the first one that stood out to me, just looking, and it'll be a while before we get there, but right after the new year, we'll start with the 15th of January. You have a quad set of games there on the road, which is at Houston, at Miami, at Cleveland, and at Milwaukee. I mean, if we're just to take those teams at their current face value before we've even started the season, that's a pretty little difficult 4-game swing there for OKC.
And that's probably their toughest road trip. That's a pretty strong trio of games there. And the thing I see for traveling for me is we're at 75-degree Miami, and then I'm getting off the plane in Ohio, and it's maybe 7 degrees. So that's where my allergies take over. So that's what I see from this schedule. I don't see, like, Miami could be a tough game. And of course, Cleveland's going to be tough. I see, we're going from 70 degrees to 10 degrees. That could be tough. But MLK Day game, I think at 1:30 for the Thunder against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then they finish up that road trip at Cleveland. So at Miami, at Cleveland, at Milwaukee, and of course that trip starts at Houston. So that's probably your toughest road trip of the season. They do have one in March that's longer, 5 days, but that includes the Brooklyn Nets and the Washington Wizards. And they got a couple of days between that Nets and Wizards game to kind of rest up, or maybe they have an invitation to the White House to celebrate that championship. Well, mum's the word on that at the moment, but there is that 2-day break between the Nets and the Wizards for that to be possible. But that looks like their toughest road trip of the season, at Houston, at Miami, at Cleveland, at Milwaukee. That's pretty strong, but this team had some tough road trips last year, and it didn't one bit.
We'll get into your suitcase of choice for some of those trips here coming up in just a bit. You mentioned the one other element that I wanted to bring up, and that was by the time we get into March, this stretch of games at Orlando, Brooklyn, Washington, Philly, Boston, then they come back home for a significant stretch with Chicago, New York, Detroit, the Lakers, and Utah. 3 more games on the road, and I thought the combination of these games was interesting, Steve, at the Lakers, at the Clippers, and then at Denver, finishing off with Phoenix. I think both of us think that Phoenix will be in the tank completely at that point in time. But that's a very interesting mix of teams there towards the very end, and no one really knows what the end of the season is going to look like or the race in the West. That sets up for at least some interesting moments before we even get the season starting, looking that far ahead.
Because normally, last year they started sitting guys 3-4 games left in the season. They should have sat Dub one game sooner when he got hurt his wrist in that Phoenix game while everyone else was sitting out. But lessons learned. But, we don't know on April 7th and April 8th what the Lakers, as you mentioned, what the Lakers and Clippers will be doing because, just like the Thunder, everybody else is kind of wants to rest up for the playoffs, but they could be vying for, seed 2, seed 3, seed 1, seed 4. So, at that point, it's very interesting. They could be great matchups, enticing at the end of the year. In the NBA, some of those late matchups get kind of boring because people already are in place, and so they sit their stars. So, it's either going to be great matchups or they're going to be dog matchups. But, that'll be fun to watch. But the Clippers, Lakers, it's a back-to-back, and you wish they were at the same arena, but, one's at Intuit Dome and then one's downtown Los Angeles. But, I'm not going to change hotels for that. Either I'll stay by the airport or I'll stay downtown. That's how I see that matchup, though. But they finished up the year a couple of years ago. I think it was the second and the last tanking year. They finished up at Staples Center with the Clippers and the Lakers. I think they only played 6 guys in both games. They were, that's the truly we're not trying to win button, and it worked.
Yes.
They got a chat and Dubs.
One of the big storylines over the past couple of years with the resurgence and even a better record has been, how come this team doesn't get as many nationally televised games? Well, look what happens when you win the NBA championship. Guess what? You get the most nationally televised games. Now, this is a little bit different, and I'm sure everyone's aware now, the new NBA TV rights kicks in this following season, so there's going to be more opportunities outside of the local broadcast for the entire country now to be able to lay eyes on the Thunder, and that includes their new deal with NBC. ESPN and ABC are still in the mix. You've got Prime video games, and now you also have the Peacock package kicking in as well. Some of those, I think the first game is an NBC Peacock combo, but Steve, 34 nationally televised games, which ties them for the league. Pretty impressive.
That's what happens when you win it all, and I thought they should have been on national TV. I'm still shocked they were not playing on Christmas last year, and you heard me say this before. The game December 26th between the Pacers and Thunder was your NBA Finals, so somebody missed out on that one. But what's interesting, I saw my veterinarian earlier today, and he goes, so do I have to buy more apps? Because I have the Dual Sports app. I'm like, well, if you want to see all the games, you're gonna have to get the Peacock app and the Prime app, or and I don't think you like that answer. So I go, well, of course, I'll be there at 5, 6, and 10 for you to tell you why they won or why they lost. He kind of smiled on that.
Yeah, but welcome to being a sports fan in 25. I mean, it's crazy. The same thing with the NFL. I saw this little note. I know this is a little dirt road we're taking here, but if you wanted to watch every NFL game, the total price tag this year would be $1,200 to watch every NFL game. So with the new NBA media rights deal, I like what the NBA has done. It's just providing more access to fans to be able to watch games. Of course, we get them here in Oklahoma all the time, but from a national perspective, hey, winning the championship, and now you're going to get your eyeball share full of the Thunder now moving forward, especially with as good as they are.
Well, it's a sweet contract for the NBA, and that's more money in the pockets for the guys who bills in the NBA, the governors, the owners of these teams. So, of course, let's do this thing. For the consumer, though, if you want to watch all those games, you better get that app and you better get that app. And we're old school. I'm used to just turning on the cable TV and changing the channel, and there's the game. That doesn't exist anymore. But I'm all for it. It's just something we have to adapt to. Streaming is taking over on the broadcast side. Every year there's more and more to the streaming side. I'm not sure what the major TV companies can do to get those games on their channels from 7 to 10 o'clock. Of course, ABC will have some, NBC will have some as well. But if you want to watch the Thunder, you're going to have to get those apps, and if you don't want to buy those apps, I'll do my best to tell you why they won or why they lost. At 10 o'clock.
No doubt, and we'll keep track of all that as well. News9.com and News6.com. Back to the schedule quickly. We touched on this briefly yesterday, and we knew the Christmas Day game, which was San Antonio, but that's actually a back-to-back with, well, not a back-to-back, but 2 games in a row stretch with San Antonio, because they're in San Antonio on the 23rd before they come back home and play them on the 25th. I like that of kind of setting the tone, and I don't know the expectations for the Spurs this year. I think if they were to somehow finish in the top 7 or top 6, I think you throw another parade in San Antonio with a roster that's been assembled. But they're building for the future, and they're building the hype up with Wemby trying to find another young team that can try to compete with Oklahoma City in the West. I like kind of setting this up for the future, Steve.
They're in good shape. They had the second pick in the draft as well. So, but they're banking on De'Aaron Fox to be that guy. For whatever reason, it didn't work out that great in Sacramento. But I like Sacramento. I love the arena. But for whatever reason, players struggle there from time to time. That's why the Sacramento is never really in the playoff picture. It's been a while since Weber and Jason Williams were on that. Jason and his fancy passes. So they played the Spurs, I think, 4 times in a span of 43 days.
Yeah.
So that's pretty. But, the NBA wants that Chet-Victor matchup.
Yes, they do.
The players don't necessarily like it. Chet's going to say the same thing over and over again. It's Spurs Thunder, not Victor versus Chet. So, but it's going to draw eyeballs. Hopefully they're both playing. They both had their injury issues. We don't need to discuss that, but hopefully they are playing and they'll be able to play against each other for those 4 games. So it's going to be great TV. The Spurs are an up-and-coming team, I think, but they're still 1-2 years away from really being a major threat in the West. That's just my opinion in mid-August.
Could the first 2 games get any better? I mean, come on. Banner, ring ceremony, you got KD in the house, and then you go on the road at Indiana, who you just beat in the finals. I don't know if you could pick a better combination than the first 2 games. Pretty spectacular.
And it's Indiana's home opener. So that place is going to be and the Boo Birds will be out. And that's another the first 2 games are on national TV.
Yeah.
So that's right there. And then that road trip finishes up at Dallas, and Dallas starts the year with 5 straight home games. Where do you sign up for that? Where do you get one of those at? So Oklahoma City will be a part of that 5-game homestand for the Dallas Mavericks. And then they play the Mavericks on the 4th game of the year. Then this night they come home to play the Kings. So right off the bat, the first 5 games where we got our first back-to-back of the season. And Jeremy, I'm not a big fan of back-to-backs, but at least that's a close one, going from Dallas to Oklahoma City.
Yeah, you don't mind that one. What's the one that you were pointing out earlier in the super secret text message thread?
What was that? Well,
Sacramento to Memphis, is that what it was?
Oh, not a back-to-back, though, but,
It might as well be for you.
They're in the NBA Cup last year in Las Vegas, and then the next game is in Orlando, and then, oh, by the way, they play in Orlando, and then the very next night they play in Miami. And the Thunder won both of those games on that trip. But just getting from Las Vegas to Orlando, that was all day long. I think I got to the hotel about 8 o'clock at night, got a salad or something, and I'm like, good night, I'm out. So, but the back-to-back, traveling back, one time they had a back-to-back Miami and then Oklahoma City the next night, and they get away with that because it's only one time zone.
Okay.
East Coast Central Time.
Yeah.
But you couldn't get further away. But I did notice this was funny. There's an unwritten rule: the Thunder must finish up a road trip at the furthest point. And once again, that 5-game road trip, East Coast, in March, they finish up in Boston, the furthest point, and then they come back home.
Of course. Well, have you got the suitcase? Now, it's only probably, been in the closet or been in storage for just only a couple of weeks. But, I mean, we're inching closer now. It'll be September before you know it, and into preseason in October. Have you started to mark little special moments? Yeah.
Where 6 preseason games come from? It used to be 4. I thought they loved 4, but now we got 6. So I would expect Shea to maybe play in 3 of those games, especially after the season they're coming off of. But they're in demand. You know, they opened up the year in Charleston, South Carolina, and then the very next night they play in Fort Worth against the Mavericks. So the Thunder are in demand. They only have 2 home preseason games. But yeah, the suitcase, my old one, I was 8 wheels to 7. And then in Salt Lake City, I checked into the wrong Marriott in downtown Salt Lake. And I'm like, I'll just roll it to 3 blocks to the other Marriott. And I lost another wheel. And right then and there, I'm like, okay, we got to get a new suitcase. I can no longer. I was carrying it, with the backpack and the tripod and the camera. This looks stupid. But, my roller that I carry with me, that the handle broke earlier this season. So
it was time.
New, and the roller is fairly new. So we're good to go.
Okay, so to your previous point, and this will be the last one, you had mentioned earlier the difference in temperature from some of the cities that you go to. So that means in one suitcase, you might have a pair of flip-flops if you have a day off in between, or a pair of shorts, but yet you also got to make sure that you've got the winter parka as well if you're going to a place that might be, 10 degrees by the time that you get there.
I will definitely, that 4-game trip that's all over the weather map, cold, warm, and cold, I will definitely do laundry. In fact, I know the Residence Inn in downtown Cleveland has a laundromat that has free detergent. So I will, just more times than not, I have to do some laundry on the road just because you just can't cram it all in. And sometimes I have equipment in my suitcase as well, and you can't be more than 50 pounds or they triple charge you. I'm like, I'm not throwing away money with that. But yeah, I will, that Houston game, when I fly to Houston, I may be boarding the plane with my winter coat, because there will be a winter coat, a big puffy winter coat, and that takes up way too much room in the suitcase. So I'm going to have to board that plane to Houston with a winter coat. There you go.
Yeah, but true signs of a travel vet, which hotel has the free soap and laundry service. Like only a true professional would. Steve, I wouldn't expect anything less out of you at all.
It's only 2 blocks from the arena in Cleveland. The Rocket, what have we got? Rocket Mortgage Arena? Yeah, it's only 2 blocks away. In fact, sometimes I have a room where I open up the blinds and there it is. So I'm all about it.
That is outstanding.
The closer I can get to an arena, the better off I'm going to be. Because if I rely on Uber or a taxi, getting there is now in their hands, not my hands.
Well, we'll be there, and you'll be there before we know it, with the season getting that much closer, and now finally a full schedule for all of us to look at and decide which games that we're going to go to and which games that maybe we need to have a few people over at the house to try to celebrate the Thunder on a season in which they will be defending their world championship. Steve, great stuff. Appreciate you always for coming on and breaking down the Thunder 25-26 schedule. And thank all of you for tuning in as well here from the Digital Desk. Remember to like and subscribe. Check out all of our great work as well. News9.com and NewsOn6.com. And we'll see you next time from the Digital Desk on another Thunder Breakdown.
Thank you for watching this Oklahoma's own Digital Studios sports presentation. Stay with News 9, online and on television anytime for the latest news, weather, and sports.